everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome to my channel. This is my book review of Drowning by T J Newman. As always with my book review videos, I'm going to start off with a very brief spoiler-free summary of the book and then we'll get into my thoughts and feelings. So let me tell you what Drowning is about. So I think the tagline of this book actually gives you a good idea of what to expect from this one, although I didn't actually see the tagline before I read the book, so I had no idea it was there. The tagline is The Rescue of Flight 1421, and that is pretty much the basic premise. So what is happening in this book is 6 minutes after this flight takes off, something goes wrong with the engines or something technical happens and the plane crashes into the ocean just off the coast of Hawaii. Everyone is trying to evacuate and then the engine explodes and some people have to stay on the plane and seal the doors in order to survive. Because this book is called Drowning, as you can imagine, something terrible happens, the plane floods and sinks to the bottom of the ocean. But thankfully planes are generally airtight because they have to be to fly, but that's still not good because it's the bottom of the ocean. This book does mainly focus on one particular family. The main guy is the dad, his name is Will. He has a daughter called Shannon and his wife is called Chris. Will and Chris aren't getting along very well at the moment. There are definite strains in their marriage, but of course they want to protect Shannon. The only thing is Chris isn't on the plane when it goes down. So that's all I'm going to say about the plot because this is a thriller book and you're going to want to read the twists and turns for yourself. So let's get on to my thoughts about the book. I just wanted to start by saying that I have read T J Newman's debut, which was Falling. I can't decide which one I liked better because even though these two books are still about planes and thrillers set on planes, they're very, very different vibes. T J Newman did actually used to be a flight attendant. I don't know how long ago. I did read the acknowledgements to try to find out, but it doesn't really matter. She clearly knows her stuff. She knows her way around an aeroplane, so all of her descriptions of what was happening, what the plane would have looked like in an emergency were very, to me, realistic, or as realistic as they needed to be to someone who is not a flight attendant or a pilot. Like, it all made sense in my head and it was explained really, really well. Because of the urgency of having to rescue these passengers who have sunk to the bottom of the ocean, this book takes place over a very short period of time. I think 5 or 6 hours, something like that. So in order to tell the story properly, T J Newman obviously had to include other points of view, otherwise it would be a very, very short book if it was only told from Will's point of view. So what she did was she also focused on Chris, who was on dry land, as Chris heard about the flight crashing and that her husband and daughter were on it, and as Chris tried to help in any way that she could. So you saw the rescue attempt happening from the land or a boat on the sea, and you also saw the passengers and the struggles that they were dealing with being in such a confined space with very little oxygen left. I don't know why I read this book because I'm actually pretty scared of the deep ocean. I'm okay with flying. The ocean and not being able to see what's underneath me and how deep it is really, really freaks me out. So reading this book was a choice. Honestly, that fear that I personally have really enhanced the experience because I was reading this book until 3 o'clock one morning because I could just not put it down because I needed to know if these people were going to survive and if they were going to run out of air or if the rescue attempts would work, because these people, the people who were trying to rescue them, they tried several different rescue attempts before they found one that was going to work. So they tried absolutely everything that they could and I was on the edge of my seat trying to, or waiting to see what would happen. I think my favourite part of this book is the characters, and not necessarily like their personalities, but the way that they interacted with each other. So you've got the people up on land, obviously, and you've got Chris and Will, who are in a strained marriage, and you've got Will with his daughter. You don't really see Chris with her daughter, but you see her thinking about her daughter, obviously. But actually my favourite part was all of the people in the plane interacting with each other and helping each other and being in this really intense situation. Yeah, there were a few fights or arguments here or there and people didn't necessarily agree with each other, but what I really liked was them coming together to help each other out in any way that they could. I always love stories like that, and I also loved seeing the rescuers risk their own lives to try and save these passengers because they didn't have to go down into the ocean to try to do that. And some really tragic things did happen throughout this book. It felt like it was one tragic thing after another, and the body count, I guess if you want to call it that, is very, very high. There were 99 people on this plane before it went down. I found this in T J Newman's debut as well, that she writes character interactions so thoughtfully and emotionally as well. I felt so many emotions about all of these characters and their relationships with each other, and I don't normally get that attached to characters in thrillers because, to be honest, I always think they're going to die. So what's the point in getting attached? And there actually aren't many thriller books where I think the characters are super standout, and to be honest, in this I'm not going to remember each individual individual character, but I'm going to remember what they went through together and how they supported each other. I thought that this book was so intense from start to finish. It was paced really, really well. There was never a moment where I was bored. There was always something happening either on the plane or up on the shore. And I actually really enjoyed the technical stuff as well. I know that it's not going to be for everyone, and to be honest, I'm obviously not an engineer, I'm not a pilot or a flight attendant, so I don't know how accurate it all was, but I think T J Newman did present it in a way that you're going to understand. It's kind of like Andy Weir with his potato stuff in The Martian. There's a lot of maths and science going on there as well. You just have to sort of go with it and trust that it makes sense, and then I think it will make sense in your own mind, at least personally. One aspect of this book that I wasn't expecting was the grief that some of the main characters were experiencing. So I'm not going to go into too much detail, but the three main characters that I mentioned earlier, Chris, Will and Shannon, they are all experiencing grief about something, the same thing, but also in very different ways. And seeing these characters go through what they were going through and dealing with this grief in different ways, because it's a different kind of grief, and then each character realizing that's how their family member was handling it, that was really, really interesting. And I wasn't expecting there to already be a grief sort of storyline before anyone on the plane had died. This book also talks a lot about hope, so I think those are definitely the two main themes of the book, grief and hope, which I think work really, really well together. Overall, this book was so tense and I couldn't put it down. I loved it. I'm probably going to buy it for myself, maybe, whereas I don't really feel the need to buy Falling because I don't think I'm going to reread that one again. But this one, Drowning, I might reread, but not anytime close to when I might be taking a flight, because I do not need that on my mind when I'm 30,000 feet up in the air. I would highly recommend this one. Even if you didn't enjoy Falling, I think this has enough of a different feel to it that you still might enjoy this. You might get something a bit different out of it, and I do think that the character relationships are a lot more memorable and impactful than they were in Falling, even though I think in Falling I did like the character relationships because there was some stuff going on that I found, you know, relevant, but this one was much better for that, I thought. So overall, I'm giving this one 4 stars. It was really, really good. Like I said, might buy it for myself, and I would recommend it to other thriller or survival thriller readers as well. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this review helped you. If you've got any questions, let me know in the comments down below. If you've read this book or her other book, Falling, let me know what you've rated them. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I'll speak to you all in the next one. Bye.